But right now the parties are so far apart, and there's no room for a third party to come up because they've got such a stranglehold on that system. I would almost like to see Trump win, finish his term, and I'd almost like to see a restructure of the political
I think
system.
it's reshaping anyway, and no one knows how it'll all play out. There's factors. What's so hard is, while we have the privilege of voting in this country, there's all these factors that play in the unknowns.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person who tries to synthesize information, and that's a strength sometimes. Like, I'm good at analyzing, but on the other hand, it can make it like where I shut down, and I don't actually do well in this kind of situation we're in because Trump is like, it's just too much to take in.
It's a lot.
And so no one can predict what will happen. And so when Trump ran, especially when he ran the first time, people didn't know. I thought someone made a good point, though. I was hearing recently that when you look at the numbers, people were so scared, or they said, he's going to ruin everything. But when you look at the numbers, we were actually doing really well as a country.
Yeah.
And I think we need to take a step back and remember that. Even with the black population and with everything going on right now, that's a hot topic.
Yeah.
But, as far as black unemployment, what I've been hearing is that was at a
all-time low.
Yep. So that was good. But that being said, it's like if Biden were to win, we don't know what would happen to the political landscape, because it is likely that Biden might represent something from the past, but ultimately there are forces at work that are going to take probably who he is and he's already pretty much he's played his hand that he's going to go along with kind of where things are going. Right. I think that's pretty obvious.
Right.
Trump is so interesting because in his personal life, and actually even in his own values, he's not really Christian. Like, that's not how you would ultimately identify him. But he's been a protector, if you want to call it that, someone who's been in the corner for people that particularly, have a high regard for what this country represents traditionally, and also, by the people that are strong on their belief in the Bible. Now, again, there's a lot to that. I understand that, and people can argue in the comments. Just keep it positive if you're if you're going to comment. But all that to say, I really think if Trump stays in, we still don't know ultimately what will happen. But I hear what you're saying. You kind of have some things you'd like to see happen, but there are just so many things beyond our control too.
Yeah, and I don't think the wish list of the Republicans and the Democrat Party losing any stranglehold that they have on that system. I think it's actually just going to continue.
Yeah.
I think the world is getting worse. It's not just politics. The world's getting worse, and it's supposedly going to do that until the day that Jesus comes back.
I think it's cycles. Just to add to that comment, because I think what happens is we tend to enter periods that are dark, and then this is a history. You can read it in the Bible too, where God graciously pulls us through that. We kind of see how evil we really are, and then in His grace, He pulls people out of that. That happened. Did you know I think at the end of the 1800s, they thought, "Wow, we are really doing great." At the end of the 1800s, they were like, "The world is great." A popular view in Christianity was called postmillennialism. I'm getting theological here, but it was the view that we will usher in Christ's kingdom. They had such a positive outlook on the world at the time, and then it didn't take long into the 1900s, where the World War, and then a Great Depression, and then the continuation, the Second World War. And, the truth is, you and I, we were born in a similar time. Really, ultimately, we were born in a very good time overall.
Yeah, 70s, 80s, 90s.
It was a pretty peaceful time, but it's never going to stay that way. And we're just we're ramping up for more turmoil, and it happens over and over in history, and I do see us headed that way. The other thing I wanted to say is, when that happens, you usually have a reshuffling of alignments.
Mm-hmm.
So take the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Look at who is represented in those parties, let's say 100 years ago, and who was represented in them in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
That shifted throughout the 1900s, and now what's going to happen probably in the next 20 years is the Republican Party, it is already being reshaped. I mean, Trump was a signal because you had a lot of people shifting places. But no doubt there is a shift of values taking place too, which again is nothing new. We had a shift of values at various times in our country. Going from slavery to coming out of slavery was a huge shift for our culture.
Very radical.
And
change.
That was a good thing, really. And so God can do good things in all of this. Mm-hmm. We have to remember that. But we're in a moment now, and we're all doing our best to make the right choice with the knowledge that we have. Yeah. And what I hear from you is, for you, that best choice is Donald Trump.
Yep. I think, I think and this is for another conversation, but there was a lot of conspiracy theorists in the world for every generation, right?
Yep.
But I think this last election cycle and the one that we're currently in right now, a lot of that stuff that people thought, that could be, but it's come to light that it is. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of these bad things that people thought were just conspiracy theories, there's some real bad, shady people in our government. Mm-hmm. And they've rooted themselves in so deep. It's really not, it is a Democrat, Republican, right, left thing on the surface. But when you get down deeper, you think those people that have those deep roots really care about Republican, Democrat? They care about power. Yep. And there's so many of them in the system that when you have a man coming along saying, I'm going to knock down your house of cards, and I'm not only going to knock it down, I'm going to expose it, and show the world how bad a lot of this really is, that is why you have the world trying to get the man out of office. It's not because he's doing the wrong things, because you just said the numbers don't show that, other than what happened with COVID.
Right.
Prior to COVID, we were seeing the best GDP we've ever had. We were seeing the lowest Black, brown, Hispanic, and Asian unemployment the country's ever seen. We were seeing the lowest number of people that were submitting applications for food stamps and welfare. We had more jobs in the country than we had physical people that could work them. Mm-hmm. Think about that. When's the last time that's ever happened? So if you look at it at an economic level, the country, and you have to have a strong economy to have strong security, strong, public relations and everything. That's the backbone of everything. And he was able to do that with the world, and I mean the world as in everybody who's been in everybody's pockets, internationally. I think they've all been trying to get him out because of what he is taking from them, which is power. And I believe, my opinion, is he's taking that power and he's giving it back to the people.
Okay,
that's what I believe. Giving it back to the states, giving it back to the people who give the government the power to begin with. And I think in this country we've gotten far away from that. We revolted against the largest monarchy, the most strongest military of all time. We revolted against them with sticks and pitchforks, and over a 3% tax on tea. And how much of our taxes are taken now by our own government?
Right. How
much of our wealth and our the power to have pursuit of happiness has been taken away by our very own government? And I just think that he is anti that. He's anti-large government, and I think that's the reason why you see so much hate towards him.
It's interesting because he's taking power away from the infrastructure that was there, and I think everybody sensed that. Actually, you can tell both sides. There was a sentiment of wanting to restructure because Bernie was very popular too. And some of the people that wanted Bernie ended up with Trump, interested, because all they knew is they sense they want something different.
Yep.
So that's a really interesting dynamic. The problem is now we're fighting for who. You're talking about the people. I agree with that to some degree, but I think you also have to ask the question, which people? Because our country is composed really of people on different sides, and I think we are vying for power. It's a power struggle right now. Even though we're saying, okay, we a lot of us agree we don't like the infrastructure that's there. Yep. Trump and Bernie were the sign that, yep, we want to shift. Yep. Clinton represents like the infrastructure to the nth degree. Right. And so that was clearly rejected, I think, in the last election by many people. So now you've got a vying, and I think that's what's happening right now in our culture. There's a lot of factors, like I said, even COVID-19 and all of us being holed up for a long time. But let's face it, these things are boiling underneath the surface. Here's another take on this, with this stuff going on in the culture right now, especially with Black Lives Matter, police, how we view all of that stuff, racism. You can see it on a map. If you look red, blue, where's blue, where's red? And the truth is, I look at it as it's really a clash of cultures by and large. I really think that on the coasts and in a lot of the cities, you have people that they look at the world a certain way. And then in other parts of the country, maybe the middle of the country, they look at the world a certain way. Yep. So what I'm saying in all this is my best analysis I can come up with, is that we know we didn't like what was there. We all had problems with it. We said, okay, we're starting to move that aside, but now it's a power struggle for whose vision of America is gonna gain control.